What's going on? What's going on? It's your man Diamond K in here, of course. The DiamondKShow.com, on fire-tv.com. A lot of things that we need to get into, a lot of things that we need to discuss with regards to the shortage of baby formula, right? How is this even a thing? How is this even a thing that we have this shortage of baby formula? We're going to talk about that. Now, back in the, early 1990s, the biggest makers of baby formula were under fire. They were under pressure. The three largest manufacturers controlled about 90% of the US market at the time. So we're talking about in the early 1990s. There were a host of state and federal corporate lawsuits that were accusing them of trying to control competition, trying to limit competition, and using their control to fix the prices of baby formula. This is in the early 90s. Now, most of those lawsuits were settled. In some cases, the companies actually won some of those lawsuits. So here we are now, 30 years later. This is a $2.1 billion industry, which is still controlled by a very small number of manufacturers. Now, these manufacturers, once again under pressure, once again in the crosshairs of their outsized market share. It is not fair to have this small number of companies controlling the baby formula in America, right? So, but that's what we have, and that is what's causing all of this. All right, that's what's causing all this. This problem has been building for some time. This is not a new problem. This is not something that just happened. Now, the Biden administration really mishandled this. The FDA mishandled this. There's a whole lot of blame to go around, and I want to make sure that everybody gets it. Everybody gets the blame that they deserve. Of course, just tuning in, your man Diamond K in here, the DiamondKShow.com, on fire-tv.com. So the Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, announced emergency measures this week because they got to get some more baby formula on the market. Of course, parents are anxious. They've been facing these shortages. But where did this start from? How is it that a country like America has this issue? Now, when we've been facing shortages on other things since the pandemic has been going on, they say, "Oh, it's all kind of issues. It's made overseas, blah 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 blah." But baby formula is not made overseas in America. It's all made here in America, right? It's all made in America. So for all the people that say if we just made everything here in America, then everything would be fine. That is not actually the solution. That's not actually the solution. We're gonna dive in, not the solution by itself. So President Biden invoked the Defense Production Act earlier this week to ensure that formula manufacturers are first in line for any ingredients that they may need. Biden also directed the Defense Department to use its contracts with commercial airlines to speed up the delivery of formulas from overseas. So all of this stuff that they're trying to do now, they're trying to patch up something that they could have fixed a long time ago. Formula has been hard to find in many parts of America since this contamination. There was a contamination that led to the recall and the closing of a big manufacturing plant in Sturgis, Michigan. So you have this plant that's being run by a small group of companies, and they run it into the ground. It's contaminated. The formula that they're producing makes babies sick. So they got to stop it. They got to put the brakes on. But because we have a small group of companies controlling the baby formula, this company shutting things down affects the supply across most of the country. This is a problem. So when we talk about everything has to be made in America, what we have to have is a diverse group of producers of products. So it has to be produced not just by one small group of companies in America, but we need to have multiple companies producing in America, not just a small group. So if we had a diverse group of companies, not just a small group controlling all of the baby formula, but if we had a large group of companies producing, then the closing of this contaminated plant wouldn't affect the whole country's baby formula supply. But that's what we're dealing with right now. So the plant in Michigan, this contaminated plant, the suspected contamination that led to the recall of this plant supplied 1/5 of all the infant formula in the country. 1/5. But the problem is bigger than that. The problem is even bigger than that. So, a few companies control the entire industry. Anytime you have a monopoly like that, things tend to get sloppy. They get cocky. And why do they have this monopoly? They have this monopoly because it is a $2.1 billion industry. And you would think that with money like this, that they're going to, do things right. They're going to maintain the quality and all that kind of stuff. No. As you can clearly see, this plant was a mess. But this is a multi-billion-dollar industry that is dominated by a handful of greedy firms. 4 companies control 90% of the market, including Abbott Nutrition. And that is the firm behind this Michigan plant, this disgusting plant. These companies operate a relatively small number of formula factories in order to maximize efficiency and keep their production costs low. Oh, they're cutting corners producing formula for our children. And we let them get away with this, right? The FDA is also to blame here. The FDA struck a deal with Abbott to reopen its Michigan plant with new safety precautions. They're all in this together. Now, the government is the biggest consumer of baby formula through the WIC programs and the such. So they're guaranteed a certain amount of baby formula at a discounted rate. Oh, they're all in this. That's why it's concentrated with the very few. Now, of course, the FDA going to say, oh, this is about the regulations, about this, about that. Your regulations were in place when this contamination happened, right? Still in place. So let's not act like the FDA is like this high and mighty organization. They got a lot of flaws, a lot of holes in their whole outfit. So this plant not only produces a large share of the country's regular baby formula, but it's also a critical supplier of what they call specialized formula. And that's for babies that have allergies and other health conditions that require a particular diet. So this is one of the reasons why they say don't make your own baby formula. Hey, but the other reason, the main reason is they don't want you to cut out them and spending your money there. Because This is $1 billion business. This is $1 billion business. And the main thing that these companies care about is money. Babies, I think, are really, really far down the list. The actual families, real far down on the list. All they care about is money, maximizing profits. Now, other parts of the food chain have similar vulnerabilities. If you remember the giant meat packing company that was hit by the ransomware attack last year, 20% of the nation's beef and pork slaughtering capacity was temporarily put on hold because we have a small group of companies controlling too much of our stuff. And when they have problems, it affects everybody. So the concentration in this formula industry deserves more scrutiny. It needs to be broken up and spread out. It needs to be. There's no reason why in 2022 this country should have any problem with baby formula that's made in America, right? We say we want stuff made in America. Here we have something that's made in America, out of stock. Now, they were telling us before, oh, it's supply chain issues. We can't get the stuff through Canada. We can't get this through here. This is made in this country. We have to import some baby formula from a whole nother country because they screwed up in this country. Oh, that whole make it in America stuff is out the window when you can't even manage the stuff that's made here. This is stuff supposed to be flowing smoothly. We need more diversity in terms of the overall supply. We need more diversity with that. What do I mean? We need more companies making baby formula, not just these greedy boss hog companies that have been controlling things for 30 years. So you have state contracts that have really led to this reliance on a single supplier. The federal government is, it's very, you have a conflict of interest with the federal government. The federal government not only regulates baby formula, the federal government is also their biggest customer. Let me say that again. The federal government not only regulates baby formula makers, but they are also their biggest customer. About half of all formula sold in this country is paid for by the Department of Agriculture. And it is done through its special supplemental nutritional program for women, infants, and children, aka WIC. So they're regulating this. And then on the other hand, they're turning around and getting it for a deal. Deal steal. Now, each state signs an exclusive contract with one of the formula manufacturers to supply subsidized product for low-income families. They sign this exclusive contract with these groups that control everything. Government gets a big price break in exchange for the formula. The maker gets a large captive market. And then the doctors will recommend, oh, you get this formula. And the government says, oh, you want to use WIC, you got to get one of these formulas. And that's how they do it. It's a whole scam. It's a conspiracy. And it needs to be broken up and it needs to be done in a different way because there is no reason why, with all these fingers on the scale, that we should be in this situation. The USDA's own research found that whichever company gets the WIC contract in a state enjoys a powerful market advantage there. They get the monopoly over the WIC sales and a spillover effect in non-WIC markets as well. So they get the best product placement in the supermarket. It is really unfortunate. If this happened in another business that the government was not not regulating. No, they would be all over this, trying to shut it down, trying to break it up. But they are part of this. Supermarkets give preferential space on their shelves to the formula maker with the WIC contract. Right? They get, displayed in the prime slot. The pediatricians are more likely to recommend those brands to their patients. Oh, you need to use this one. Yeah, Dr. Such and such says this, right? It's all together. They're all in this all together. Because the WIC program is such a large purchaser, it buys about half of the baby formula on the market. Now, once a company has an exclusive deal to service a state, competitors don't have the financial incentive to compete in that state. Once they get that contract, the competition might as well kiss their ass goodbye, because they're not going to have a chance in this. Oh yeah, they're all in this together. So as I said, Abbott Nutrition is the company that is behind this contaminated plant that shut down, which caused this whole fiasco. And it has a WIC monopoly in about 2/3 of all states. Administration has asked states to relax those rules temporarily, so WIC recipients can use their benefits to buy any brand of formula. There should not be this forced purchase of a certain brand. But of course, the contracts are all tied in that way, and the agreements that they signed are set up that way. And as long as everything is going fine, I suppose the American people wouldn't notice. But when you have situations happen, when you have things happen that causes problems like one that we are facing right now, then, something else has to happen. There are almost no imports. Typically, the U.S. buys almost zero infant formula from other countries. This is an American-made thing, and they set it up like that. So there are very steep tariffs, 17.5% on most formula that is brought in. So that's going to make it very expensive. Most people are not even going to want to buy it. It's too hot, right? And the barriers make it almost impossible. The regulation that they put on these imports make it almost impossible for formula makers outside the country to sell to customers in the U.S. So they set up all of these roadblocks to have it made in America, which is fine as long as we can get it when we need it. Right? So you have the regulations governing the manufacture and the labeling of formula, right? And this is supposed to be designed to protect U.S. infants. All right, that's noble. But they also serve to protect the domestic formula companies from having to compete with overseas competition. So you're going to say, oh, yeah, it's about protecting the babies. That's only part of it. They're also trying to stop these companies from having to compete at all. So they can give you inferior product, which they had been giving. They had been giving inferior product. 4 babies became hospitalized, which is why the plant was shut down in the first place, because the babies consumed contaminated formula. That's why the plants were shut down. That's how we got here. That's how we got here. Now, in the normal instances, let's say you got a fast food restaurant and they, have some customers get sick. People are going to stop going to that place. But imagine if that was the only place that you could go eat. Oh, that would be a problem then. See, now, if a restaurant or a chain restaurant has some bad food and gets some bad press, people are going to stop going there. They're going to go to some of the competitors. But this game is rigged, so there are no competitors. You're just SOL. There's really no reason that we should be blocking perfectly nutritional formula from coming out of high quality sanitary plants, whether that's in America or overseas. There's no reason why we can't be importing baby formula from Canada, which could be very easily inspected by the FDA if they're worried about that. Very easily done, right? We have to address this shortage. Now, it's going to take time to sort all this stuff out. This is not something that's going to happen overnight. How long is it going to take? I don't know, probably months. All right, FDA says it's going to take about 2 weeks to restart production at Abbott's Michigan plant, and another 6 to 8 weeks to bring that plant to full capacity. Imported formula will also need to be screened, and it's probably weeks away from showing up on the store shelves. Now, although the use of the military planes and contracts might speed up delivery a little bit, we still have some time to go before we are on the other side of this issue. Now, in the meantime, the Biden administration is working with domestic formula makers. This is the very small group that's usually shut out of everything else. And they're going to try to ensure that existing suppliers get to where they're needed most. What does that mean? Who knows? Who knows? Now, specialty formulas, which is something that a lot of people are concerned about, kids who need particular brands, they're going to be hard to locate. Overall formula sales in April were 13% higher than before the Abbott recall. The increase suggests that there are fears of the shortages that we're facing, and parents are trying to buy more. Oh yeah, it's pandemonium. It's pandemonium. And at the end of the day, the Biden administration could have jumped on this sooner. Plant was closed down in February. February. Right? They had time to get this together. They knew the impact, but they're being lazy. They're being lazy, and for so long, things have just been going on in a certain way. And the Abbott company and the others, which control so much of the market, clearly are taking shortcuts, and the American people are being affected by this. So there has been, let's talk about some of this stuff. All right, some of this stuff. There were tests performed by regulators that have directly linked cans of formula that babies consume to strands of bacteria and all kind of undesirable things, harmful things that were found at this plant. The ripple effect from a single plant closing, having this widespread, just this widespread impact, is devastating. The lack of meaningful competition in an industry governed by rules, supposed rules and regulations designed to protect babies. This is all about the money. This is all about the money. When something goes wrong, like it has here, you have a major, serious crisis. This industry has to be broken up. And I think that the evidence is clear. The baby formula industry must be broken up, and efforts have to be made to promote competition to avoid future shortages. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, at The Diamond K Show, of course, onfire-tv.com. I don't know. I don't like this. Now, the Biden administration, they're getting a lot of flack for this. This whole crisis has the Biden administration running around like a chicken with their heads cut off. Yeah, it is a it is an issue. And when you got 4 companies making 90% of the formula in this country, that's something that we need to take a look at. That is something that we really need to take a look at. You cannot have 4 companies making all this formula. Definitely. So we're going to continue to watch this. We're going to continue to follow this story as it unfolds, and we're going to see. They're gonna swear up and down everything's fine. It's just no. This has to be broken up. These people need to be hauled in front of Congress. They need to be raked over the coals, and this industry has to be broken up.